Hey everybody, I'm Matt Valley. Welcome to episode number 135 of the Rock and Roll Research Podcast, where we share the super cool backstories and side gigs of the research and insights pros that you trust. Speaking of insights pros that you trust, I'm really excited to welcome Sabrina Brastad to the podcast today. Now, Sabrina's got this awesome story, right? So a lot of times people don't start their career in insights. Sabrina kind of did, right? It's got some classic training at some of the great research suppliers in our space, like Ipsos and Holland Partners and Vision Critical. And then she made the leap to the brand side, working at Fitbit and later Amazon devices. But when I say the brand side, I don't just mean the insights role in the brand side, which is where she started, but Sabrina's one of those rare insights pros that has the audacity to take an idea and really blow it up and make it real. She was rewarded with line responsibility as a marketer, working in branding on some great products within Amazon devices. And then back again, right? Back to insights. So really cool stuff. Great story. I just love it. And I'm looking forward to digging in to that story with you today, Sabrina. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Matt.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you. I've really been looking forward to this chat after we had a first introductory conversation, which lasted longer, I think, than this podcast is going to last. So I know some of the nitty-gritty good stuff, and I can't wait to get into it. So before I do want to say a couple words about this really cool product, which is called Magic Mind, right here. You can see it. It is an elixir that gives me sharper mind and clean energy. My son Nelson and I have been taking this every day in the morning. Mental performance shot looks like that. Shake it up down the hatch. Tastes pretty good, not too bad. But lasts all day. Real good, clean energy, great ingredients, safe for me, safe for my son. It's really kind of put a spring in my step on a daily basis. And if it's something that you're interested in trying, there's a great deal. If you go to magicmind.com/RNRLT, that's like rock and roll, RNRLT. Get yourself a nice discount on a one-time trial, or even a better discount on a subscription. Take my word for it. If you do try it, let me know. Would love to know what your experience is. Hopefully it's as good as mine. I'm sure it will be. So let's jump into it, Sabrina. So first question, always good to know, what sparked your interest in insights? How did you get into this space? And take us a little bit on your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a marketing major in college, and my advisor called me one day and said, I have an internship in your hometown and they'll pay you for the summer. And I ended up taking it. It was a market research internship.
Okay.
So my job for the
What was the
summer,
hometown, by the way?
Kennewick, Washington.
Kennewick, Washington. Okay.
And my job was to run a small business survey for the Chamber of Commerce.
Oh,
And
that's neat.
I'm dating myself a little bit, but the methodology was a mail survey. So I got to print out, stuff the envelopes, and mail the survey, and then wait for the responses back. And when
Yeah.
and when I didn't get them, I went door to door to the businesses to get my response rates up to have enough to be able to complete the internship. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
that was my first foray into market research. When I graduated college, Ipsos was really excited about my internship and
Sure.
having some experience in market research. So I spent the first 8 years of my career on the agency side before joining a small startup called Fitbit.
Yeah.
And early days of this small little company that had this trendy product that some people knew about and some didn't.
Yeah. Now, Fitbit. Okay. Question about Fitbit. So I think, was it David Yin that brought you into Fitbit? Is that right?
He is. Yes, I know. He's
Yes.
an alum of this podcast.
Yes, David Yin. He was episode 67. Really blew me away. honestly one of the sharpest, most insightful people I've met in this industry. So, tell me a little bit about what it's like to work with David. And it was a brand new department, right? So I'm curious about that experience.
It was. So I was the first product researcher brought in, the first person David chose to help him grow his team. He has been such a formative mentor, leader, friend of
Huh,
mine over the years. Um, Working with him was exciting. And it was one of those things where we would spend hours spitballing things or just
yeah,
diving into the data and getting really excited about it because we were really in uncharted territory of why would someone want to know their heart rate all the time? And that
right.
was a responsibility to help figure out how to communicate that and the benefits. He will probably be mortified for me sharing this experience, but we once were working on a project that had a really tight deadline and we were flying back from doing some research and we were putting together, the what we were going to share the next day.
Okay.
And we're sitting next to each other on the flight and I'm typing and we had been going all day and I fell asleep while typing and he was like tapping me like wake up, we got to finish. So that became a long running joke. David will make you work on a plane until you fall asleep. But
Very nice.
I can fall asleep anywhere, and so that was my downfall. But we like to tease about the type of manager he is that way. But truly, a visionary of what I really learned from him was to not be afraid to ask really hard questions or
Right.
questions that sometimes seem really simple and straightforward, but no one's asking.
Yeah,
Who is this for? Who is this product for? And if people can't tell you the answer to that, there's only so far that research can also take you without
right.
having some of those things thought through or have some hypothesis to be able to measure against.
Mhm.
So a wonderful person to have in my life and in my career.
Yeah, and you and David share something in common that's relevant to this story that I just think is really fascinating because the thing I really liked about David was, he started out as an engineer, right? Working in the labs or whatever, working in R&D labs.
Indeed, yeah.
Got really interested in consumer research, but that wasn't everything for him, right? He really understood the business and was connecting insights to its actual purpose in driving business results. And so he found himself into an operational role, right? As a general manager, ultimately a chief marketing officer. So um, that's what's so great about David and his background is taking the insights and actually making them work for the business. And that's what you have done as well. So tell us a little bit about the transition then from Fitbit to Amazon devices.
Yeah. So I am a born and raised Washingtonian, so moving to
Yeah,
Amazon and coming back home was a great thing. And being able to work on technology that consumer technology that doesn't exist is such a unique and interesting space because
right.
you make this vision of what it is, but if you can't sell it or explain it to
Hmm.
your grandma or the person on the street, it doesn't matter how great the product is sometimes, and
Sure.
or to even have a product go as far as it could go. So being able to move to Amazon devices and having this place where there's so many ideas and it was such a place of innovation of we are building things to make people's lives better, more exciting, easier and
Yeah.
getting to do that is such an interesting space to be in.
Yeah. Can I ask a question about that? I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but it's just so interesting. It's like these new frontier products. there's so much um, there's so much we can lean upon in terms of historical data when it comes to like coming out with a new product, a new variation in a category that's mature that already exists. You can go to databases that help you do volumetric forecasting. How do you think about new to the world products when it comes to forecasting or like you said, just product acceptance?
Yeah, it's I would say it is the most cliche way of you have to think outside the box.
Yeah.
of traditional methods are not always the right way, or it's a combination of things to be able to triangulate to get an idea. From, hey, I need to talk to some people to say, does this word make sense? Do you pronounce it right? How would you imagine this word or this benefit? Through to there is no NPD or sales data for this category. No one even tracks it.
Yeah.
How do you estimate that forecasting and what do you use as proxies
Yeah.
or baselines to compare to? And then the other piece of when you're doing new categories and particularly new technology is I borrowed and followed from lots of other industries
Yeah.
of I have created methodologies where you're playing paper dolls, right? You put together an outfit for something or you draw your perfect home and what does that look like? Or take
Right.
photos of that. And just doing things in borrowing from other industries, other ways of doing it, of getting insights and really understanding who a person is. Because technology is one of those things where it helps your life, but it also isn't always intrinsic to who you are. There
Yeah.
are so many other elements of you as a fully formed human, of you and I could have the exact same computer, phone, tablet, TV, but our paths to get there would be so different. And
Right.
what drives us to do that? And that's where I think, particularly with technology, is like your whole life and how you live it is so important in a factor in how people use technology,
Sure.
have it in their lives, and the importance they place on it too.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. Cool stuff. I mean, right at that frontier, Sabrina, you've seen some really cool stuff. I know. I'm just kind of jealous. I mean, who wouldn't want that job?
Well, and
Um,
sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't, where you're like, this is not, this was not maybe the best, or we are not getting what we need. And then how do you
yeah.
pivot to?
Yep. Yep. Exactly. So, so question for you. So I've got a 20-year-old daughter. One of her favorite music artists is Billie Eilish, who's relentlessly creative, amazing voice, all of those things. Now, she would love to have a little bit of Billie Eilish in her life, right? So, why don't you tell us a story about how a little slice of Billie Eilish kind of came into your work life?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something I think I would have never guessed that we would be talking about, or I would be sharing about, or that I have a connection to Billie Eilish. But when I was on the Alexa brand team, I was tasked with coming up with marketing campaigns for new and innovative products. So we ran a study around high fidelity audio and really high quality audio because we had just released the most premium Echo speaker.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
with that, we learned that tied with user data, I learned that who was buying this newly released speaker was people who already owned an Echo. And they
Right.
were older and they had a bunch of them and they were mostly men.
Yeah. These are
And
like audio files, right? People who
yes, and it
just,
was very stereotypical of, yes, this is who would buy this.
yeah.
But what was interesting was there was this subset of people who were younger,
Mhm.
who were both men and women, who lived in smaller homes like apartments, who didn't necessarily have a speaker in their home, an Echo or anything else.
Mhm.
And they really had an appreciation and wanted high fidelity audio in their home, but they were also on a budget. And if you think of the full context of it, a really high fidelity audio system can be $1,000 to, $20,000.
Thousands and thousands. Yeah,
There
absolutely.
was this perception there isn't something for me at a lower price point or
Right.
anything.
Yep.
And I knew from brand tracking data, we did have a little bit lower awareness among this younger group. They knew what Alexa was, but they didn't know that there was this premium speaker product.
Okay.
And at the same time, Amazon Music had launched a premium tier of streaming with like the highest fidelity 3D audio. So these two products together were really well, were better together to give you this amazing experience. And armed with this insight that there's this group that we are not talking to. They don't even know this product exists. They
Yeah.
have brand recognition, but not product recognition, and that it's attainable to them in a different way.
Right.
And at Amazon, you are challenged with thinking big and coming up with new ideas. And the format of how you often share those is what's called a PR FAQ. And so PR standing for press release, FAQ standing for frequently asked questions.
Hmm.
And it is a future focused document. So the press release is written, predated in the future, and it is what the press release would be for an idea, an initiative, a product, whatever it may be. It works in all different ways.
Right.
Wrote a PR FAQ because I had a brand marketing idea of how could we make this product, these two products, both the Amazon Music subscription and this new Echo, interesting. There's a group of people who want to know what this is, or who I think would be really, this would be compelling to them.
Right.
And when I did that, I wrote this PR FAQ and said, what if we did a brand marketing campaign that was a collaboration with a music artist? And it was led with their voice and their authenticity to say, this is the best way to listen. This is a great way to listen to my music in
Yeah.
the way that we intended and wanted it to be. And so I wrote this, and it really was a pitch, right, to the Amazon Music and Devices team of, do you want
Right.
to do this? And it would be a custom designed Echo that they would get to promote. And it would be very akin to like the concert poster on your wall, like the ones you have behind you. But right, like there's a new generation of kids who have different ways of showing their, or younger people, or anyone really, of how do you show your love for an artist or a band?
Yeah.
And wrote it, pitched it as this idea of this is not for sales. This is truly about talking about the brand and the promise and the value and how this can be relevant to them.
Hmm.
And so it got approved and ended up being a limited edition Echo Studio with Billie Eilish.
Wow, that's awesome. That's so
So
cool.
after we did the first, oh, yep, you're approved. It's like, well, what do we do now? We need someone to do this. And really, that peer FAQ was rooted in that insight that I had that there is an audience for this. This is an audience we are not talking to, and there is lots of opportunity with this audience as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Really curious. I just love the Billie Eilish choice, and I can make some assumptions about how that might have come about. But tell us about the decision to choose her as the artist that would be representing this product.
yeah, absolutely. So, as part of this was, well, how do we decide who this should be and who fits with the vision of what the goal of this product is?
Hmm.
And I can't go into names of other artists that were opportunities that came up that were looking for something to do
Yeah.
that were not in the right audience of who we wanted. And so what I ended up doing was creating tenets and guidelines of someone has to meet all these criteria for us to even consider them to pitch to them.
Sure.
So one was they had to have an album coming out that would be supported in this high fidelity audio format. The
Okay.
second was they had to have a minimum number of engagement and active on social media. And it was them, not the band or their labels, putting out a social media account. It had to
Sure.
be them interacting with their fans
Hmm.
in more authentic ways. And they had to be willing to be creative and do something visual and different because we had never done this before. This was new territory from a product perspective of how do we create a design on a speaker fabric
Yeah.
and can we bring that vision to life? So this was all unknown that we were charting new territory that way also. And so there were a number of times where people were like, well, we have this opportunity with XYZ band who is, gonna be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I had to be the one to say, that doesn't fit with our criteria
Yeah.
and the vision for this
Sure.
campaign, really. And having really clear objectives helped with that of the goal of this is to appeal to a different audience. This is where the insight came from, going back to that, or here's who we're trying to talk to.
Yeah,
And choosing a really established band that has, 20 albums in their catalog, but doesn't meet any of the other criteria was not going to work for this to be
for sure.
authentic and different and a true collaboration.
Yeah, and I think am I right in assuming that this was kind of the beginning of the relationship with Billie Eilish? Because I think I associate her a bit with Amazon, so it's not just one and done, right?
So she had done some small things, a lot of artists work with it, but what we did was we actually came together and pitched her team a version of here's the go big year with Billie and Amazon.
Yeah,
And we pulled together, she ended up being the Amazon Prime Day concert. So she had her own special on Prime Video. She had an album coming out that we knew, and I knew for months before. I had so many secrets in this project. Knew her album was coming out, so she ended up, we did branded boxes with her album art on it, and she worked with Alexa and Echo to have her own speaker and own experience
yeah,
on Alexa. So it was taking a good relationship and making it bigger. And it was really like the combination of all the pieces was unique and something that no one else could deliver, really, in the
yeah.
way that Amazon could.
I love it. I absolutely love it, and it just seems like such a great fit. I'm curious to know now, did you get the payoff? Did you get a chance to meet her, with this great idea?
She was on a few calls where we were discussing what the product looked like. And then the best part was I got to go to her show, with some really great seats. And also
Cool.
just became a Billie fan for life of just how talented she and her entire family is, and just such a musical genius. And she's just starting her career. She's in her early 20s.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I really actually love her new song, Birds of a Feather. Um,
So
it's
good.
it's got this echoes of like there's this vocal band in the 80s called the Sundays from the UK, just this amazingly beautiful voice. There's part of the chorus that really harkens back to that sound, and I really enjoy hearing it. So yeah, that's super cool, super cool. So I'm interested to know because I think a lot of people in insights, they certainly when I started, I could tell you my first job on the client side. I remember my very first marketing director told me, okay, now Matt, you just report the data. Don't interpret it. That's what the marketers do. They're the ones that figure out what to do with the data, right? So I'm just a reporter. Thankfully, those days are gone. They have evolved. Insights has really come into its own, I think, over this time. But still, there are a lot of people in this space that are a little bit reticent to really be bold and push forward with ideas and make them happen. So, is there anything you maybe learned from your experience that was different that gave you that courage?
Yeah, I think I had the data to always lean on to say, like, yes, I came up with maybe the creative execution of this and this bigger state of how this could be and come to life.
Right,
But everything that supported that decision or really helped aid to it was rooted in data and fact
right,
of, hey, here's the current customer, here's a potential new customer. And they want this, and there is no one in the market serving it. This could potentially be an opportunity for us. I think that was one of just, and staying really focused on that of like, what are the objectives and what are those one, two, three nuggets of insight or data that you can continue to repeat to say, this is why I'm here. This is why this is a good
yeah,
idea. And that's where I love that you said, the audacity to do it because someone's like, you could have just made a like, look at this innovative speaker that fills your room with sound. And that would have done the
yeah,
job the same way and this was just that on steroids, right? Of like,
right.
what if we had the biggest artist? in the world who's
Yeah.
so influential and a tastemaker and a true artist be the one that led the marketing, that it was
Yeah.
not the typical playbook. They're going to announce this, not us. And I think because I was an insights person, I was never the marketer making the decisions. I had the audacity to be like, what if we just did this?
Yeah.
What are all the levers that I can pull that I know exist because I've heard them in, you know, meetings and in things over my time at Amazon? What if I could do this? And so my approach to that was the answer's no until I ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
The worst that can
Absolutely.
happen. And
Yeah.
what's the worst that can happen? Well, the answer was already no before that. But could we do a site takeover? Could we make a custom box? What else could we do to make this a holistic, comprehensive marketing campaign, not just one piece of it?
Yeah. Yeah. And kudos to Amazon for having that outlet, that structure that can capture those ideas. You know what to do. It's like I've got this idea. Here's how I push it forward. Push it forward.
And yeah, and I will say that's one of the big hallmarks of it being a company that wants innovation and wants different thinking.
Yeah.
And then also I had no business knowing how to develop a product, a design, or marketing strategy. I did not have that background, but it was my idea and I got to do it, which was such a cool,
Yeah.
unique experience to take an idea all the way through to holding an actual product in my hand.
Yeah. So cool. So cool. All right. So since you're like always on the frontier of new ideas, new products, all this good stuff, new to the world. I'm very interested to know as you kind of think about the future of insights specifically, what do you see out there? What's going to matter? What's important?
Yeah, I think in this world of short bites of content, thinking of TikTok and Instagram and even news blurbs and things like that, we have to evolve with the culture and where we're at, right? My
Yeah,
mail survey,
yeah,
my first market research project, that's just not the world we play in today. That should
yeah,
not, that one we can put on the shelf. But thinking forward to meeting customers where they're at. And I think that really means being more conversational, not talking like a robot to say,
yeah,
well, why do you like this? Or if you had to choose between these two, why? And not be so formal, which I think a lot of us were trained in this way of being very formal, but
yes, absolutely.
brands also have a voice now in a way that they didn't in, previous generations or years where you do feel like you're talking to the brand or this
Right.
version of the brand. And so insights is an extension of that, right? Every time we reach out to a customer on behalf of a brand, you speaking in the same kind of voice,
Mhm.
tone, the look and feel of the survey. These are all kind of intangible things that help you feel a certain way about a brand, and it doesn't feel
Sure.
disjointed. So I think conversational insights, things being shorter, quicker hits of can I get 3 questions? Can I ask you 3 to 5 questions and not 35 questions? And can that get me part of the way there?
Right.
And how do you iterate on those? So I think that's one piece. Obviously, mobile, thinking of some of the more complex methodologies and analyses, how can we do that in a mobile first way? And I
Yep.
think we're still in this transition of knowing from web to mobile, like, how does this look? And it was something that I always challenge my team of, have you taken out your phone and tested this there? Like, how
Right.
does this look? Let's look at it on a tablet. Let's look at it on our other devices. Or could there be other channels that you can use? So we experimented with, could you do a survey on an Echo Show potentially, or a
Yeah.
Kindle?
Yeah.
Meeting customers again where they're at. And then the other part, which is I think a little scarier, is with the rise of AI, having really good data quality and not just
Yeah.
having bots, but having consumers having ChatGPT or another AI engine answer for you. And how do you protect the data quality?
Totally. That is a puzzle. Not a day goes by that I'm not following some conversation like this on LinkedIn. It's so important right now, and it feels a bit like primordial ooze still, where we're still really feeling our way around with. I mean, data quality was a huge issue before AI came about, and now it's so much more complex even, and we're gonna have to slog through it for sure.
Well, and I think some of that is also how are you open and willing to try and fail with things of what if
Yeah,
I looked at the answers this way? What if I check did different types of questions to check? But then the other piece of that is how can I use AI to help me actually identify?
sure.
Is there a bot? Is there a pattern?
Yeah,
And that was something that I think is was an interesting, like flipping it on its head of putting a data file in and saying, how many of these answers are exactly the same?
yeah,
Oh, well, that just gave me a first flag. How many of these things, how consistent are these? And so using it to help us do more, but then also protecting the data quality of what we're doing because it's just a different world. And I think going back to the having quicker hits and more conversational will prompt those types of answers from consumers that doesn't feel like such a big lift the
yeah,
way traditional surveys maybe were or have
yeah,
been.
for sure, for sure. I like that. Okay, I want to ask you. I really like this question. You you've thrown out a lot of names of different media properties over the course of this conversation, right? So we've all got these fragmented experiences now with the media. We're all super busy people. Some of us take that extra time we have and are doing really professional stuff. I'm on Green Book and I'm doing this and I'm going to webinars and all that stuff. Some people are Netflixing and chilling. So, what media is earning your time, your spare time these days, Sabrina?
I have a few. One is I love fashion and pop culture, and my paper subscription to Vogue magazine is one that I am not willing to give up.
Non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable. It's likely often in my bag with me, so I can flip through it. Um, and always love particularly fashion for that reason because it takes, you could be advertising a bag, but the picture is of a couch on a street
Yeah,
and the bag is one piece of it. And it's like, how do you think about things differently? That's one of them. And the other is I am a music person. So when I am not working, I zone out. I am a playlist girly. I am a leave my spot. My music is almost always playing in my house.
yeah,
So it's not the conventional media that way, but like I will dive into like Lady Gaga came out with an album a few weeks ago and I just like
yeah.
listened for a whole day, like just that on repeat to like get into it. But one thing that I love and look forward to every year is the IKEA Life at Home report. I don't know if you're familiar with this.
Interesting. No, I'm not familiar with that one. IKEA
So
Life at Home. Tell me more.
IKEA's research and trend team releases a report called Life at Home every year. And it's a global study that is done that really focuses on and goes into what it means, what life at home means today in different countries,
Yeah,
different places. And it has very little to do with IKEA furniture or, the things that you
sure.
typically think of IKEA about, but how people are living, what's important to them, how they
Mhm.
use their spaces, how they feel about their spaces. And is it a safe refuge? Is it just the place where you lay your head and that's all? Um,
Yeah,
and it has a needs framework. And I've seen over the years of reading this how it has changed over time
sure.
that what it means, and particularly coming out of the pandemic where home became
Exactly.
the most important thing. But now, what does home look like is these hybrid different types of spaces
Yeah,
that weren't there before. So that is one that's probably my most like looking forward to of again, we're whole people. Technology is one piece of that.
yeah,
And how you live your life is actually the most telling of how you may use something or how you may find it helpful or
yeah.
people in your life. So that is one that I look forward to, that really touches on just about every category or every part of someone's life in a unique way.
Yeah, I love that. I'm definitely going to check that out because my head went right to the pandemic as well. And it's just curious to see how this evolves as we get further and further away from that experience and when it starts to feel normal again, whatever that means. Yeah, that's fascinating. I appreciate
Yes,
the tip.
the
That's good stuff.
2024 one hasn't come out yet, but
Okay.
country, and it's global though, so that it's also really
Yeah.
unique to see what's similar between countries and what's very different.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, Sabrina, you did say the magic word on the Rock and Roll Research Podcast, which of course is music, right? I'm definitely a music guy. Speaking of your home spaces, this is the first time that I've ever had a dad cave in my house. Been here for a couple of years,
The
hence the
dream.
Slayer poster, the Motorhead poster, courtesy of my wife. I got full permission to do such things, so I'm very happy about that. Um, so you know what question is coming because I've already asked you to think about it, but we're going to pin you down on this one, Sabrina. You're stranded on a desert island, right? You've got 3 albums of your choosing to keep you company for the rest of your days. What are those 3 albums?
I have been thinking about this more than probably I should have. Um, so my three albums are Destiny's Child, The Writings on the Wall.
Yeah, nice.
I am a pop girly R&B like that type. I kept like missing this of like, yes, this is that album I could listen to forever. The next one is I'm also a really moody music listener. Like I listen to different music depending on my mood. So, Folklore by Taylor Swift, which is I think
Yeah,
one of her more moody
yeah,
vibe feeling albums. And then I have a pretty eclectic music taste of listening to just about everything. And as I was thinking through, like, what could this third album be? And I went back to, like, where did this come from that I listened to all these different kinds of music? And my third album is the Romeo and Juliet soundtrack from like 1999, Baz Luhrmann, Leo
yeah,
DiCaprio. And I had this album and I was obsessed with it. And I went back and re-listened to it this week. It had Garbage, Everclear, The Cardigans, but
yeah,
also Des'ree. It had R&B and pop and romance and jazz and alt, angry,
yeah,
rock. And I remember loving and listening to it all and it having such a formative experience of like, I wouldn't have guessed 12-year-old me was listening to that.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome. It's kind of like an echo of like the single soundtrack. It's like such a
Yeah.
just full of bangers and yeah, and Garbage. By the way, huge fan. My daughter and I went and saw Garbage last year, and I'm going to see him again this year in Dallas. It's such a good show.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I really
Love
like
it.
I really like the OG Destiny's Child choice. That's a cool choice. I like it. So good stuff.
Yes, it's
Excellent.
a little mix of everything.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Cool. Well, Sabrina, I love your story. It's very inspiring from an insights perspective. So appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing it. Of course, I'd love to dig in deeper, and I'm sure we will at some point the next time we talk. So let's make that happen soon. Let's talk soon, Sabrina, and rock and roll.
Thank you so much. Bye.